Welcome to Chicago in the 1930s. In this 5-part documentary series, we're going to explore a city of extreme contrasts. We'll walk the daytime streets with ordinary people doing whatever it took to survive, scraping by and sometimes breaking under the crushing pressure of the Great Depression. We'll also step inside the homes of Chicagoans and see the brighter side of the era, the pure, unbridled freedom of childhood. And we'll close it all out in the dead of night. The Chicago of Al Capone, the swing joints, the dangerous and electric version most people only know from the movies. The poet Carl Sandburg called this the city of big shoulders. And in the 1930s, those shoulders had to carry an unimaginable weight. By the early 1930s, Chicago had become one of the cities hardest hit by the Great Depression. Once a booming industrial center, the city now faced mass unemployment on a scale few had imagined possible. By 1933, estimates placed unemployment in Chicago at over 40%. Thousands of workers who had once held steady jobs in steel mills, meatpacking plants, and factories were suddenly without income. Children were among the most visible victims. By the height of the Depression, more than half of Chicago's families had fallen below the poverty line or were dependent on relief. In many working-class neighborhoods, malnutrition among children became widespread. Relief organizations reported thousands of cases of children suffering from hunger and related illnesses. As many parents struggled to find any steady work at all, families had no choice but to send their children out to help. As a result, school attendance dropped sharply as thousands of kids left their classrooms to scavenge for food or take whatever small jobs they could find. One of the places where food could be found during these desperate times was South Water Market. There, people gathered daily to comb through piles of discarded produce and waste. What had once been commercial refuse was now scavenged by hand. Families, women, and even children picking through rotten vegetables and scraps in the hope of finding something edible. These scenes were far from isolated. Similar scavenging occurred at city dumps and behind restaurants across Chicago. Many of the men seen here, desperately gathering spoiled vegetables from the ground, had only recently been ordinary workers. They were confident about the future and, most importantly, had savings. But when the crisis hit and they rushed to withdraw their savings just to survive, it turned out that the banks had been gambling with their clients' money on the stock market. In the end, millions of families who had never bought a single stock lost everything they had saved. When the bank closes and the money runs out, pride is the very first thing to go. Digging through rotting cabbage and discarded scraps just to find something, anything to put in the soup pot tonight. Out in the shanty towns, they called it Hoover stew. You took whatever the wholesale markets threw in the dirt, you boiled it to kill the bacteria, and you survived one more day. This wasn't just poverty. This was a daily, grinding war against starvation. But 1930s Chicago gave us the generation that Tom Brokaw would later call the greatest generation. Look at that hand-painted sign, Barbecue Talk of the Town. This is where Chicago's legendary barbecue tradition began. And take a close look at the box right by that man's feet. Drexel Ice Cream. The Drexel Ice Cream Company wasn't just some faceless brand. It was an absolute South Side Chicago institution. During the dark years of the Great Depression, life was a heavy daily grind. But for just a couple of pennies, a simple ice cream bar was a rare slice of joy. This woman is another symbol of the era. Gathering broken fruit crates and scrap wood from the street was practically the only way to survive a brutal Chicago winter. Heating a home with coal had become an absolute luxury. Before the crash, a worker making $25 to $30 a week could easily buy a ton of coal for the winter. Now, his income was exactly zero. When you don't even have 2 cents in your pocket for a loaf of bread, it doesn't matter that coal prices dropped. $7 for a ton of coal in 1932 was just as astronomical and out of reach as $1 million is for an average worker today.